Psalm 46, if you want to go ahead and open up there, we're going to spend our time looking at that, and we'll begin by reading it. As this month, we're looking at this kingdom that we can be a part of, this kingdom that cannot be shaken, an unshakable and unbreakable kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream in Daniel chapter 2 about this rock. You remember he had this great statue. And then there was this rock that became bigger and bigger, and it destroyed this statue. It destroyed those kingdoms as we know it represented in Daniel chapter 2. And that is the unbreakable, the unshakable kingdom that we can be a part of. And as I was thinking about this particular month, I think it's appropriate to begin thinking about the unbreakable kingdom. Death cannot shake the kingdom of God. Darkness, the evil one, none of those things can shake the kingdom of God. But it is because God is unshakable. God is unbreakable. So we arrive at Psalm 46, and I think this particular psalm is appropriate as we think about our relationship with God and how God promises to be that unshakable foundation. And if you've been paying attention, a lot of these songs that we've already sung and some more that we're going to sing are a direct reflection of Psalm 46. So let's begin by reading it together, and then we'll look at some points from this particular psalm. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. And again, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. This is in the series of life that we are in, this journey that we go through. This ought to be one of the most encouraging and invigorating psalms. I don't care what you go through in life. This will get you through if we remember this. Now, this psalm, if you've been paying attention, we don't know what the word means, but it's divided into three parts by this musical term called Selah. Understandably, we have verses 1 through 3 serving as the first stanza, and then 4 through 7, the second stanza, and then, of course, that last stanza beginning in verse 8 and running through the end, verse 11. So that's how we're dividing this up as it was meant to be sung. Now, if you remember, there's this superscription that is not in the particular text, in the original that we know, but it is very, very old. And there's no reason really to disbelieve or to question its authenticity as being historically accurate. And this particular superscription above this psalm, it reads to the choir master of the sons of Korah, according to the Alamoth, the song. The sons of Korah. Now that brings us back to the book of Numbers, doesn't it? The sons of Korah. Korah was one of those, along with Dathan and Abiram, who led a rebellion against Moses. Korah was one of those whose camp was swallowed up by the earth. In their history, in their lineage, Korah, the Levite, Dathan and Abiram, the Reubenites, Korah has a spotted past. Yet here we see in verses 1 through 3 the peace of God. And I think that's interesting given the history of Korah and his people. There is peace to be found in God. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear. Look at this. Though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. It doesn't matter what this earth brings. It doesn't matter all the turmoil that is found in this earth. Verses 1 through 3 tell us that God gives us peace. There's 3 reasons in verse 1 as to why we can have peace in God. First of all, He is our refuge. He is our strength. He is our help. Our refuge, our strength, and our help. You want peace? You want peace of mind? Turn to God as a refuge. I don't know if y'all were like us when the storms came through, I don't know, every day this week. But when the first one came through that was bad, supposed to be really bad, we found ourselves a lot of time in the basement. Maybe you've got a storm shelter. Maybe you've got a basement yourself or some safe place where you go and hide with your bike helmets in the bathtub. But you find refuge, and you find it fast because you know that the storm is coming. And I remember watching the news, and they were talking about as if a tornado comes over your house, what it's going to do. It's going to peel away your walls, and it's going to leave you. So you go into here's a tip. Go into the middle part of your house and go to the low spot, all right? If you haven't heard. But it peels away everything around you. And it leaves the shell. And if you've seen tornado damage, you know it's true. Right? It'll lift up your roof and set it over in the neighbor's yard. And it's gonna peel away your walls and stick those in the middle of an oak tree. But there is, in the middle of the house, there's the bathtub, there's the toilet, there's the sink. We find refuge. God is our refuge, right? God is, He's our basement or our bathtub, right? So when the storm comes, when there's raging in the wind and you're finding shelter, God is that place that you go. The walls around you may peel away and the roof may be lifted up and tossed into the neighbor's yard. But there's refuge. Refuge in God. And He is our strength. Now you can view strength in a few different scenarios, right? It's somewhat elastic in its definition. You can think about strength as maybe like Samson or someone in the Old Testament, very strong and able to do mighty things. Or, I believe more accurately, in this context, strength as the ability to endure, right? Like God gives you the strength to endure what is going on around you. God is our refuge, and coupled with that, our strength. He is our durability, right? You go and you look at all these beautiful and fascinating, and I love historical buildings. But you look at these ones, and America's not that old, but you look at these ones that are built in the 1500s, and you're like, wow, isn't that incredible? They have the ability to endure. And you think about all the things that they went through. That is pretty neat. Or I remember going to Shiloh in Tennessee and looking at the battlefield in Shiloh that took place in the Civil War. If you've never been and you like history, then that's a pretty neat little trip. But I imagine seeing those oak trees, those giant trees, and you can't even fit your arms around them. Undoubtedly, they saw and they still hold the bullets of something like that. That strength, the durability. God gives us that stability. We've got a couple of oak trees in our front yard. And I was watching them. I would not recommend this. But as that tornado was coming, that front was coming in, I was standing out there and I was watching those oak trees. Our neighbor has a pine tree that got uprooted right behind our house. But I was watching those oak trees. And the branches, they would sway and they would move. Then I started focusing on that trunk. That trunk never moved. The ability to endure, that is strength. And it has that strength because of the roots, right? I mean, it is rooted and grounded. If we're rooted and we're grounded in God, He gives us the strength to go through whatever life throws at us. Though the mountains be moved into the sea, though the waters roar and foam, the mountains tremble. God is our strength. And then this last one, a very present help in trouble. Or maybe the translation that you're reading, I think might be more accurate in describing it as a well-proven help, which present, obviously, points to the present and how God is there. But well-proved points us to the past, doesn't it? Like we can trust in God. We can find our strength and our durability in God and our refuge in God because God has always been there for us. It's a well-proven fact. God does not abandon His people. It is a well-known fact that God is going to be victorious in the end. He is a well-proved help, a very present help, even in the times of trouble. And you look at verses 2 and 3, and it describes like the earth just dissolving, right? The earth gives way, the mountains are moved into the heart of the sea, and that'd be crazy. And then the waters roar and foam. I don't know if you've ever seen or stood at the cliff of a mountain on the side of the ocean, but that's what I'm envisioning in my mind. And the waters, the waves are just beating nonstop, foaming nonstop at this mountain. And the mountains tremble. All that happens, and I can still be steadfast. I can still have that peace of God because God is my refuge, strength, and help because of what we see in verse 1. Then you move into this second stanza, beginning in verse 4. And here it's described for us the presence of God. I love this idea. The peace of God in 1 through 3, and then the presence of God in 4 through 7. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. The holy, look at the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters His voice and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. You see that? Over and over again in this particular section of this song, you see the presence of God. God is in the midst. The Lord of hosts is with us. It's the city of God, the habitation of God, the Most High. It's the presence of God. The presence of God described in a couple of different ways, right? The river. A river runs through it. I told somebody this morning, a river's running through my yard right now. This particular river, for whatever reason, it reminds me of a couple of different passages, a couple of different ideas. And the first one is in the second chapter of your Bible, in Genesis chapter 2. You remember the setting of the garden. It says this in Genesis chapter 2, beginning in verse 8. This is the garden. And we read in chapter 3 that it was apparently customary for God to walk in the garden in the cool of the day, round about verse 8 or so in chapter 3. But look at verse 8 and verse 9 with me. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden, in the east, and there he put a man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then there are 4 rivers described in verse 10 and in verse 11 that surround this garden, that are there in this place. We've got, of course, the Tigris and Euphrates mentioned last there in verse 14. Pishon, Gihon, these 4 rivers in the Garden of Eden, the presence of God with the tree of life. Genesis chapter 2. Now turn over to the last chapter in your Bible. Read with me, beginning in verse 1 of Revelation chapter 22. The angel showed me, John, the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. Through the middle of the street of the city, also on either side of the river, the tree of life, with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be anything accursed, but the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads, and night will be no more. They will need no light of lamp or sun, for the Lord God will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever. Do you see this image? Do you see how it's reflective of the very beginning? The tree of life there in the midst, on both sides of the river flowing, the river of life flowing from the throne of God, the one who gives life, and of the Lamb. And then that God is in the presence of this place. And you see it, there will be no need. There's no night, there's no need for any type of flashlight or anything, because God is, the glory of God is the light. Now we couple that thought with our passage in verse 4, Psalm 46. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. Whether we're thinking about the Garden of Eden, or we're thinking about Jerusalem, or we're thinking about the New Jerusalem, you find refuge in this passage, because God is in the midst of her, giving life to her inhabitants. moving on from there, the second half of this stanza speaks of the raging, of this crazy. We have in the first part this almost serene scene that's set before us. And then the second part, it's completely opposite of that. God will help her when the morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. I can't help but to think, and maybe it's analogous to this, but this story that we read about Jesus in Luke chapter 8, and I'm going to go ahead and flip over there and read that. In Luke chapter 8, we have one of the craziest stories, at least in my opinion, that's recorded for us. And I can't help but to draw so many parallels to what we just read. Luke chapter 8, beginning in verse 22. One day he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." So they set out. And as they sailed, he fell asleep. And a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him up, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." Here's a bunch of sailors saying, "We're about to die." They're on a boat. And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased. And there was a calm. And he said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, "Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and the water to obey him?" Wouldn't it have been nice when those winds were howling and you heard the maybe coming through the cracks of your windows? Wouldn't it have been nice just to step outside and say, "Stop!" And everything just fall, just dead silent. That would be pretty neat. I wish somebody would have done that. But we can't, can we? In the middle of this storm where these sailors are saying, "Master, Master, we're perishing. Don't you care that we're about to die?" Jesus is asleep in the boat. Look at this. That story in the back of your mind. God will help her when the morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. When he wakes up, he'll help you. When morning dawns, he'll be there. The ocean rages, the boat totters. He utters his voice, and it all melts away. And then they began to ask among themselves, "Who is this, that even the winds and the waves obey him?" The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. I tell you, when your boat that you're in, your life that you're in, is frantically moving up and down, and everything around you is raging against you, tossing your boat all over the place, there is no better person to have on your boat than God. God is our refuge. He is our fortress. He is our help. He's our strength. Who is this, that even the winds and the waves obey him? It's the Lord of hosts. You see, the peace of God in 1 through 3, the presence of God in 4 through 7, and then the power of God in this last verse, 8 through 11. Let's read it one more time. Let it be fresh on our minds. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Verse 11, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. This is the power of God. Sometimes, in order to appreciate what goes on in your life, you got to look back in the past and see all the things that God has already done for you. God is our well-proved help. And I think that's perhaps, that's the case here in verses 8 and 9. Because in order for this peace, and there is undoubtedly peace, because look at what God is doing. He makes wars cease. He breaks the bow. You don't need the bow anymore. You don't need the spear anymore. And he burns the chariots with fire. You don't need any of those things. But look at what comes before that. He has brought desolations. In order to appreciate the peace that he brings, sometimes you endure the heartaches. In order to appreciate, we go back to the boat, in order to appreciate the calm and the peace. And in order to say, who is this? The storm had to be there first. In order to appreciate the power of God, sometimes it's necessary for those bad things to happen, the desolations or whatever you want to call them, to happen in our life. Very quickly, one last example of this concept found in Exodus chapter 14. Exodus chapter 12, the first Passover, the Exodus from Egypt. In chapter 13, we arrive at the Red Sea in chapter 14. And the Israelites don't know what to do. They're stuck between a water place and their enemy. And they began crying out to Moses. You brought us out here because there's no graves in Egypt, verse 11. And then Moses subsequently cried out to God, what are we supposed to do? And Moses, this is what he says in verse 13. Fear not. Sounds a whole lot like our passage. Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You have only to be silent. Be still and know that I am God. Watch this. Don't fear. Watch this. Have you ever said that to one of your friends? A lot of times, that's how people get hurt. When their buddies are around and they say something like, watch this. Doesn't usually end so well. But that's what Moses says. Fear not. Don't worry. Watch this. Fear not and see the salvation that the Lord will do for you today. All these Egyptians. But before we get there, right, before we get to the Red Sea, do not forget, we have, as Paul said, 430 years in Egypt, oppression, building up to this moment, right? The desolations before you can be still and know that God is who he claims to be and to watch him work and to fully appreciate that. There was the oppression, the desolations. And now he breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the chariots. Or maybe more appropriately here, he buries them all in water. He drowns them. Coming back to our thought, with which we started with, there's refuge in God. God is unbreakable. And it doesn't matter if you're facing the Egyptians and you're coming out of the bondage of sin, or if you are facing this insurmountable odds. God is still a refuge, a strength, an unbreakable, fortified tower from which you can find peace in His presence as you sit there and witness the power of God. If you don't find yourself this morning, if you don't find yourself in the presence of God, if you don't find yourself in that city, in the city that gives life, the city of God, why not? Get right with Him. Get baptized. Today's the day. We got plenty of water. We could baptize you out here by the street.